Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Project Zomboid. Today, we're going to be shifting into the sort of endgame of this challenge. We have about, I want to say like 25-ish days remaining in the challenge, I think. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And I figured it would make sense just to be relatively quickish about it. So I'm probably going to talk a lot in post as opposed to talking on camera. Because I'm going to be doing a lot of maintenance. I'm going to go fishing for a little while, probably for the next like 5 days or something, and just try to get my weight up. I might do some chopping in trees nearby. It's going to be a lot of just busy work. I need to grab a little bit of food. So yeah, we can get into that. Okay. So this is now me speaking in post. The first thing I decided to do was drive down to the dock in order to get some fishing done. I encountered some zombie resistance, namely a small group of 4 that I dispatched, and of course afterwards I ripped up their clothing just to get a bit more thread. I actually encountered another group of zombies, about 6 of them, pretty sizable group, around the fishing hut, so I pulled out my axe to deal with them. After one last straggler, it was time to fish. I actually changed things up this time around, opting for a fishing rod instead of a spear. I did a little bit of Googling because I was curious, and apparently the spear is inferior to the fishing rod. It just like counts as having one less abundance level or something like that. I did encounter a new issue though. Apparently the little lure dudes, the fishing tackles, just like go missing sometimes. So I had to go to the fishing store, which is luckily right nearby, which makes this a pretty good spot actually, to pick up some more fishing tackles so that I could get some good fishing in. On the way back home, I did end up encountering a couple of zombies, which were no big deal. I handled them with a hammer. We ended up catching about half a dozen fishes. Nothing like too incredible, but it was good progress on filling out the freezer with high-calorie food. The next day, I pretty much had the same plan of attack. I was going to go back to the fishing dock in order to fish. I did encounter some parking lot zombies in that supermarket corner store. It's on the way to the fishing spot. Again, they were handled with the hammer, saving some precious durability on the axe. Fishing with the fishing rod was a little bit of a pain because I kept having the fishing line break and having to fix that. That being said, that day was very productive fish-wise. Ended up getting just so much fish that I called it an early day and went back to the house. I literally actually filled the entire freezer out. Well, the fish side of it. We were pretty good on fishes. I decided to cook the spare fish just to get a real non-cabbage meal in. I had a few hours remaining in the day of daylight, so I decided to spend the rest of that day chopping down some trees. I made about like 10 stone axes to do so. I didn't go through that many that day because it was already getting kind of late, but I wanted to have the spares. Next day, it was rainy, so I decided to make that an exercise day since the freezers were already full to bursting. Pretty much just did a bunch of burpees and ate fish all day long. Sometimes I would exercise outside to alleviate the boredom moodlet. Other times I would read magazines. My cabbages actually went stale in the fridge, which was kind of a little bit spooky, but overall not like super consequential given the immense reserves of food that I have available to me at all times. The burpees had taken their toll though. The next day I was just in pure agony for a good chunk of the day. I basically just sat around and twiddled my thumbs, waiting for the soreness to dissipate. After which, I decided to continue chopping down trees until my stone axes ran out. I encountered a little bit of a scare. I overheated super duper hard and got all the way to like the max heat level. But luckily I caught it before I suffered any repercussions, and I just deposited my leather jacket and denim shirt out on the ground. To help with the process of removing my broken axes, I moved the trash can near my gate. The next day, it had started raining again, which meant it was time to do more burpees just to try to fill out that regularity meter. I actually managed to accomplish it after about half the day, and it also stopped raining, but I was pretty much all in at that point because I was going to be experiencing burpee agony at some point anyways. So beyond like little bits of maintenance here and there, I pretty much just did that. I got sore pretty early on, so I had a couple extra hours on my hands in which I was in too much agony to exercise, so I just managed the water situation and basically did nothing else for the rest of that day as well. The next day, it was clear skies, and so it was back to fishing for me. Actually caught a very decent amount of fish that day, which was pretty nice. I shifted into a diet of more fish each day because I had such a surplus. I was supplementing it with cabbages, but I wanted to get the proteins and the calories in, so I cooked some fish up as well, mostly going for the like tiny fishes to like weed them out of my inventory, cycle them out. It actually started getting cold, like really cold outside, 46 degrees, to the point where I was getting the chilly stass effect while I was just in my denim shirt. So I thought that was awesome. It was the perfect opportunity to wear my leather jacket with the leather strips. And I also could, for the first time, equip the scarf. And of course I reinforced it with leather strips as well to help protect my neck, which was very nice. Big fan of that. For a change of pace, before fishing, I decided to run an errand today. The first stop was the liquor store to restock up on that booze because I was encountering some issues with sleeping. I figured the booze would be a nice way to both be able to control my tiredness levels and also get rid of pain. After that, it was back to fishing. Once again, I encountered a zombie, which I dealt with, but otherwise it was pretty much uneventful. Didn't really even catch all that many fish. Once I got back, I decided to follow through on a plan I had been formulating for days. I wanted to get the refrigerator out of here, and so I decided I would move the rain collector barrel outside, which is perfect since it was raining. and I'd already put in a couple better ones into the bathroom so that I could build some crates next to the fridge, which would just store all the things the fridge used to store. And then I could very easily transfer what was in the fridge into those crates, and then I could remove the fridge. I opted to pick it up instead of disassembling it, just in case I needed the storage space at some point. But I encountered a little bit of a difficulty because the fridge weighed so much that I could not pick up the fridge. I was pretty tempted to disassemble the fridge at that point because I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do if I can't pick up the fridge? But luckily, I tried dropping my backpack and that freed up the space. But then I had another issue. I could not drop the fridge. It was a very sticky fridge. I was a little bit worried that I would have to put it in my truck to just live in the car forever, but I saw that my sink could somehow fit an entire fridge in it, so that's where the fridge is going to live from now on, which is very cool. Very happy about the organized perk. It's such a ridiculously good perk. I feel like it's a must taker. I decided to put a shelf in where the fridge was just to sort of fill up that blank spot, and this was going to be my shelf wardrobe because I was getting a little bit tired of having all sorts of junk laying around in my house because I was spending so much time just chilling around in there. Pretty happy. The house is looking a little bit better. Next on the docket was a little bit of farming because it was raining, so I figured it was the perfect opportunity so I wouldn't have to water the plants. And also because I was sort of going through some perishable foods. I noticed the carrots were becoming harvestable as well, so I ended up picking them up. Unfortunately, immediately after I planted all the crops, it friggin' stopped raining. So in order to not have the crops die of dehydration, I just went and grabbed a bucket and then filled the bucket over and over at the rain collectors and watered the crops. A little bit of a pain, but it is what it is. That's what the rain collectors are for. It's actually less of an issue than I thought it would be. I thought I'd have to fill multiple buckets, but it seemed like the plants were good after just one. Still, not something that I want to spend my time doing for the most part. Very rude of the sky. After that, I decided to spend this day going on a chipstone hunting expedition, and also wanted to do a little bit of disassembling. I started in that house that was kind of nearby, but I got a little bit wigged out because all of the entrances were open, so I migrated a little bit more to the east, encountering a little bit of resistance before I encountered something a little bit awkward. A humongous group of zombies. I decided at that point I would practice my aiming, so I pulled out my pistol and I started blasting, utilizing the fence to get the zombies onto the ground before shooting, because when they're on the ground you get super critical shots. I figured I could kill two birds with one stone. The pistol's noise would be loud enough that if there were any zombies in the area, I could lure them over, and then I wouldn't have to worry about them while disassembling stuff. It also, had the benefit of getting rid of the zombies and practicing my aiming skill. Overall, it went really, really well, and the zombies were all grouped up, so obviously at that point I decided to throw all their clothing on the ground into big old piles for later retrieval. And by later, I mean right then, because I didn't know when the next time I was going to be in the area. I needed thread as well, so actually got a lot out of these zombies. So that being done, the rest of the day was spent disassembling furniture in this little block in the neighborhood. I didn't really need to level up my carpentry, but what I was really after was nails, and also I was kind of after a change of pace because we spent the last like 5 to 10 days just like fishing and exercising. It was wearing down on me. Although I wasn't really in the hunt for carpentry level ups, I did end up getting one, which was very nice. So we're now all the way up to carpentry 9. And that was pretty much the gist of all that happened in that week. I've got to say, it is a little bit weird and interesting to be recording in post. This is like the first time that I've attempted this other than minor adjustments to videos. It's actually a little bit of a shorter episode today, which is what it is. I mean, this is like 2 hours of footage or so, actually a little bit more. So I did not anticipate the briskness of the pace. If you have opinions on this style of episode versus the more like in the moment style, do let me know if you want to. I have to say, personally, I'm less super duper thrilled about this editing style because it is a lot of extra work. But I think it is kind of helpful with the project Zomboid because we were spending a lot of days. This would have been like 3 or 4 episodes of me just doing the same thing over and over. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time for more Project Zomboid. Goodbye!